Hey guys. So, I was originally going to tell you this story about how I didn't go home for Christmas for 10 years, and then I wrote a letter and sent it to 20 members of my family to tell them that I was now a man with a beard and that they should be prepared. And I procrastinated, and then sent the letter at the last minute until I thought I'd walk up to my grandma's house and she'd be like at the mailbox. And I'd be like, but I'm not going to tell you that story. I decided I wasn't feeling it because, I don't know, I was feeling just other things. And I don't know about you all, but it's been just like really tender few weeks. And so I wanted to tell you this other story. And the weird thing is that I'm not even making this shit up, but this actually happened 2 years ago tonight on December 10th, 2014. So I was driving from Vancouver, BC back to Portland, and it was a dark and stormy night. This is real. This is real. It was a dark and stormy night. It was raining like fucking nuts when it's raining and you can't see and your windshield wipers aren't doing anything. And so I'm almost back to Portland, about an hour away in Washington on I-5 coming south. And I see there's like, it's just like crazy rain. And I see these vehicles pulled over and these people are standing outside their car in the dumping rain and they're like going like this. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I look to the center and there's like these Jersey barriers in the divider between the two sides of the highway. And there's a car completely like flipped over, right? Like flipped over up against the Jersey barrier. And without even thinking about it, I just pull my truck over and I just run out of the car and I run across I-5 in the dumping rain and I run over to this vehicle and I'm like trying to open the doors. And then the people who were like, they start coming over, right? And so this dude, this like short, burly Puerto Rican dude comes over and he and I are like pulling on the doors. We're pulling on the doors, trying to get the doors open. And you can just see the airbags are like pushed up against the windows, right? So it looks like a giant marshmallow has exploded in this car and we can't see the people. And it's like so fucking quiet. And he and I are just running around this car, pulling on the doors and we're yelling like, pop the lock, pop the lock. And nothing is happening. And I'm just like, my adrenaline is like through the frickin' roof. And, another of the people who were pulled over comes over and I'm like, I pointed this like white construction dude. He has like an orange reflective vest. He just had it in his car. He's like, construction dude. And I was like, call 911. You know that thing? It's like when they tell you like call 911, you have to like point to the person. You can't just say somebody call it. You have to be like, and it's like, you have to point to a person because otherwise everybody will be like, oh, I thought you did it. No, I thought you did it. So construction dude calls 911 and me and the short burly guy are like trying to get this car open. And all of a sudden I hear like breaking glass and I run around to the passenger side. I mean, this car is completely upside down, up against the Jersey barrier. And there's like broken glass suddenly in the passenger door and these feet. There's bare feet, these 2 feet. And so he and I reach down and we like pull this woman out, this small, like this petite statured Chinese woman. We pull her out and and then we say, how many other people are in the car? And she says, there's one more person. So, and then there's like another set of bare feet. Like, it's like freaking December 10th. And so we pull this other person, her husband out of the car and they're both barefoot. And like, we are just like, our hearts are just like, I don't know about this, short burly guy, but like I am like on adrenaline, like 911. And we pull these 2 people out of the car and there's like not a scratch on them. They're barefoot. I'm like, why are you barefoot? But that also made me think that they were very much in a position of feeling very comfortable on this drive, right? Like they were not expecting to be flipped over upside down in the rain on I-5 stranded alone, right? And so we're standing there with the 2 people and we're just kind of like, are you okay? Like checking them out. There's not a freaking scratch on them. And then construction guy's like, we got to get these people out of the middle of the highway. It's not safe for them here. We got to get them to the shoulder. And I'm like, okay. So I scoop the man up in my arms. And I just like, because like they're barefoot, dude. And so I run across I-5 with this man in my arms. And, I just want to say, like I think I hear a lot of stories where it's like, as a trans person, it's like, a lot of stories about trans people like needing to be saved and to be rescued. And I just want you to know, you never fucking know. One of us might be like carrying you across I-5. I'm just saying. So like I run across the highway with this man in my arms, and it's like so scary, but all like the semis are just like really slow. It's like everybody gets it. Everybody's like going really, really, really like 2 miles an hour down the highway, and it's so quiet, even though it's like dumping rain, and my heart is beating. And then the construction dude has like the woman in his arms, and we run across the highway with these people in our arms, and we put them down on the shoulder, and then we're all just standing there like, what do we do? You know? So someone's like, you know, this woman's like, hey, do you want to come sit in my car and get warm? And the people are like, no. And the woman's like really upset about her car. And the short burly guy's like, don't worry about it. That's just stuff. Like God was protecting you tonight and you are fine. And she's like, oh, but my car. And he's like, no, it's just stuff. It's just stuff. And so they didn't want to sit in the car and get warm. You know, and I ran to my truck and I pulled out this flashlight. It's like this big, but like the batteries are like so dead. So I'm like, you know, this like tiny little wink of light, and I'm all like flashing the, you know, and the semis are going by really slow. And the short burly guy comes over to me and he like puts his arms around me and he holds me and I hold him, and we're both like weeping, and he goes, God was speaking to you tonight. And I was like, you know, I know it's not cool to talk about God in Portland, and I'm not like super religious. I'm like a fucking Buddhist, right? But I'm like, whatever, God. I was raised Catholic, you know. But he's like, God was speaking to you tonight, even if you didn't hear what he had to say. And I've thought about that a lot over the last 2 years, about like what does that actually mean? And to me, in that moment, what it meant to be spoken to by God was this idea that like something mattered more than I did. You know, something was more important to me, and I didn't think about it. I just did it. And, you know, so he and I are like holding each other and crying, and he holds his hand up like this. And I look, and his knuckles are raw and bloody. And I realize he'd punched the window to be able to pull these people out of the car. And he told me this long story about like how he's like, pointed at his eye, and he's like, this long story about how he was like heading to, I thought he said Poland, to go get cataract surgery. And I looked at him as if I was seeing him for the first time, and I realized that one of his eyes had this like pink gummy mass, and like it looked like he couldn't really see. And we were just like holding hands on the side of I-5 in the dumping rain, crying. And I was like, it was it was a pretty special moment. And then I was like, well, then the fire trucks came and the ambulance came. And the firefighters were like, well, it's very nice of you people to stand here and wait around, but it's time to clear traffic and all that. And we're all like, see ya. And so I went and said goodbye to the man and the woman, and the man hugged me. And I, you know, and they spoke to the firefighters in thick accents. And I said, you know, you have to make sure to get these people home. And the firefighter assured me that the troopers would get them home safely. And, you know, I think a lot about recently, you know, the reason I wanted to tell this story tonight is recently my friend Michelle T, who's a writer, she was speaking here in town recently, and she said that, you know, somebody asked this question about activism, right? And she said, well, I think the most important thing is, like, what can we do that's helpful, right? Like, I mean, it's that simple, like, what is helpful right now? And to me, you know, I wanted to tell the story because I think over the next few years, we're going to be really having to listen extra hard for like when God is speaking to us, and we're going to have to really be helpful. Thank you.